Okay, this is a review of what we covered yesterday with regard to Pythagoras. Hopefully this will help and something you can save to use for future reference. So we're loading up Pythagoras, and then we'll take a review of how to set points, lines, and do some basic annotation. When Pythagoras comes up, as it has, now you see is a blank page. If you remember correctly, as I hover the mouse over the page, you see on the left here, we have the northing, easting, and elevation. So we can set this to any particular coordinate system that we like. What we're going to do is start off by setting a point. And I'm just going to stick the point anywhere on the page. And you'll notice that it's asking me now for a northing and an easting and an elevation. So I'm going to make that point 5,000. 5,000. And we'll make the elevation 100 feet. Now, when I click this little green checkbox, it's going to accept that information. I could hit the Enter key as well on the keyboard. When I do that, now I have a point. If I go down to my drawing tool, hit my little arrow, come over here and click on that point, you'll notice to the left up here are the correct coordinates, 5,000, 5,000, and 100. So I'm going to set some other points on the screen. Go back to my point tool. But this time, I'd like to just set these points around this one, but I don't want to have to confirm each one of them. I'm not going to set specific coordinates. So I'm going to turn off that little green box by clicking on it. And now I'm ready to set some points. Point tool is highlighted. So I'm going to set a point, let's say over here. And notice I'm not having to hit that green checkbox each time, like so. Now let's go back to the drawing tools, back to the arrow tool, and let's take a look at one of these points. If I double click on that point, I get a box that lets me edit that particular point. There's my point number 5. You notice that the style right now is a cross. If I click on that over here with the little arrow, then I can use any of these types of things, triangles, slashes, X crosses. I can also come down here and go to a library symbol, one that maybe I've saved for a particular type of point. For example, here's some sample ones that I have that have been stored in the system. What we would do is take your particular symbols and store them into Pythagoras, and you can use them and pull them up any way you want to. Let's just scroll down here, and I have one that I believe, there we go, let's use one called iron pin. Now that's what the symbol is going to look like. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to make this a little bit larger. I want to make this 200, I'm going to double the size. 200%, 200%, oops, not 2,000. Okay. And let's change the color from black. I'm going to click to the little pull down menu here. Let's go to red. And I'm going to say OK. And that particular point is right here. It's still pretty small, but take a look as I zoom in on it. There's our point. Okay, so that's how we change our points to different types of things. So I'm going to double click again. Go back here and change this to an X cross. Say OK. And now we've changed it back to an X. So let's put some lines between these points. I'm going to go over here and select the line tool. And as I hover near the point, watch what happens. See it highlight? So when I left click my mouse and just drag the mouse away, there's the line. I'm going to come up here. When I get near the next point, I just left click again. Then left click to start it here. Left click to end it there. Left click to start, end, so forth and so on. Like so. So now we got points and we got lines. Now let's talk a little bit about annotating or measuring and identifying these objects. In our toolbox, down here on the left side, this large T is for horizontal text. This T is for text that's parallel to the object you want to put it on. This one, the third button in, this is the one that's our annotation tool. And if you take and as you're hovering over it, if you right click your mouse on it, it comes up with a list of things that you can add now to the drawing. So let's start with point number. And as I move over here and I click on a point, it shows me the point numbers. Zoom in a little bit so you can see what we're talking about. Move this up a little bit. Okay, let's go back here to point numbers. Click on that one and click on this. Now I got point numbers on each of these points. Now you notice as I'm zooming in and out, I'm using the wheel on the top of the mouse. As I roll that wheel forward, it zooms in. As I roll it back, it zooms out. And if I want to move this thing around on the screen, I can hit the little hand hold the left mouse button down, and as I'm moving it, I can put it right where I want it. So you're going to be zooming in and zooming out a lot in these particular areas in order to be able to work, in closer detail. Okay, so let's go back to our tool over here. Third one in from the left, right click. Let's put some horizontal distances on these things. Horizontal length. Now I'm just going to click on the lines. Click, 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 click. And there's the other one. So now we have annotated those horizontal distances. Let's right click on this tool again. Let's put some bearings on here. And now watch what happens this time. The bearing actually is set up at the moment, and this can be changed, but it's set up to go on top of the line as well. So now I've got two of these on top of each other. Let me roll in a little bit and look at it. Looks kind of messy. So let's do this. Let's hit the arrow tool. Let's click here, and I'm going to click and hold down the left mouse button and just drag that box down. Now we've got the bearing and we've got the distance one right on top of each other. We can set this up so that it puts one above and one below on a regular basis later when we go back here and look at settings and default attributes. So for now, let's just go ahead and we'll make the corrections. Let's do some bearings. Let's do some more of them. Do some more. Now I'm going to get my arrow tool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Click. Hold the left mouse button down, drag it down. Click. Hold the left mouse button down, drag it down. Let's take a look at this one. Click here, hold the left mouse button down, drag it over here, like so. Here's one we can do. Okay, so now we have bearings and distances, and we have lines, we have points, point numbers. Just another quick point here. If I right click on this, let's say I want to put some coordinates on these points. Selected coordinates, and there's my coordinates. So right now that's sitting right on top of here and looks a little bit confusing. So let's do the same thing. Let's go back to the arrow tool, click on it, hold the left mouse button down. Let's drag it up a little bit, make it look a little bit cleaner. Left mouse button down, drag it up, make it look a little bit cleaner. There you go. So now you got your northing and your easting, your point number, bearings, and distances. One more thing to show you on this video. You see this tool over here? This is the Polygon Tool. And when I click on this and come over here, I can select any of these lines. And what it's going to do is it's going to find all the lines attached to that line, and then it's going to make a polygon out of those. So watch what happens when I click on the line. So you notice I have the little blue line inside. It has now created a polygon as an object out of this whole entire area. Now if I go over here back to my arrow tool, and this time I'm just going to hover to the center of that polygon. See that P show up right there? That's telling me that that area is also a polygon. I'm going to double click, left click on it. And right here under polygon, I have pattern. So let's say I wanted to highlight that area with a diagonal. And let's change the color to, let's make it red. So this is the kind of pattern that I'm going to get. If I accept that and say OK, and there's the area that's been drawn in. So I'm going to move this back over here where we can see it. So now I got a nice polygon. The other thing you can do too, if I hit my arrow key, come back and double click on that little P again, and hit Info tab, notice I got the acreage and the perimeter of that polygon. So it's 0.864 acres, 770.679 feet. And here's the specifics on each particular line in that polygon. Okay, so I'm going to end the video here at this point, and we'll come back later and talk about some of the other things, adding text and so forth that we discussed in the previous lesson. Hope that helps, and we'll do some more of these as we go forward.